Welcome back to Commander's Tech, Weapons and Warfare in Context. For this winter, I put together a couple of projects to work on as I get the time. First, back on Black Friday last year, I found a good deal on a polearm head to construct an English bill. The bill is a medieval or Renaissance polearm similar to a guisarme or a halberd. These were still in limited use as late as the settling of Jamestown in the Plymouth colony, although they were considered obsolete in Europe at that point. This is a windlass steel crafts bill head, which I will be mounting on an oak pole after I finish tapering the end of the pole and applying a coat of tung oil. Actually, about 7 or 8 coats of tung oil. In addition, I've had a growing interest in black powder muzzleloading weapons lately, and I will be working on this Traditions Kentucky pistol kit. I'll be bluing the barrel using an instant bluing compound, and I will also be applying a tung oil finish before doing final assembly. Even though this pistol is percussion, it's of a similar type to those that were in use in the mid to late 18th century, and I thought it would go along well with some of the other archaic weaponry in my collection. I've completed the build and the finish of the Kentucky pistol and the English bill. For the pistol, I began by dry fitting the parts. I took off some of the wood under the nose cap in order to get a better fit, as well as removing some of the excess wood from the stock in order to get a better transition from the wood of the stock to the brass of the nose cap. In addition, I had to increase the inletting for the trigger assembly and the trigger guard in order to get them to fit correctly. And then I was able to assemble everything and get everything reasonably fitting together. After the dry fitting, I finished the stock by applying 11 coats of tung oil over the course of about a week and a half. In addition to finishing the stock, I also applied a blued finish to the barrel. I did this by applying 2 coats of super blue. Between coats, I roughed it with steel wool in order to get a nice even coverage. I think it turned out fairly well for the finish there. For final assembly, the biggest challenge I had actually was getting the tang screw, which connects the barrel to the rest of the gun, into the right position. The tang screw has to thread into a hole in the trigger assembly, and it has to enter this at a very precise angle. If it doesn't, threads don't catch and it doesn't thread into position, so it doesn't actually anchor it. What I discovered was that my trigger assembly was actually back a little bit too far, so the tang screw wasn't hitting the correct hole at the correct angle, so it wasn't going in. So I had to increase the inletting more for the trigger assembly and the trigger guard in order to get the tang screw to thread in order to complete my final assembly. One of the pleasant side effects of that change, though, was that both the trigger assembly and the trigger guard ended up in a better position and with a better fit and overall better function. So, it's the pistol. For the English bill, I also applied 11 coats of tung oil, roughing it with steel wool between applications. In addition, I tapered the last 4 inches or so of the shaft using a knife and a rasp and some wood files, as well as drilling pilot holes for where the screws would go to attach the head to the shaft. When I put the screws in, the heads actually broke off, but the bodies of the screws still succeeded at securing the bill head onto the shaft successfully. I added this fringed tassel using deerskin from a doe that I shot many years ago, glued in place and then secured with these brass tacks. The bill itself, with the head, is nearly 8 feet long, so it can't stand up in my armory. My next challenge with this is figuring out where I'm going to put it, although I have a pretty good idea where on my walls I would have a spot for this. For my next projects, I already have a few lined up for things to work on over the coming months, although I'm not sure when I'm going to get them done or when I'm going to actually move on to the next. But I have the Traditions Kentucky Rifle Kit, which is the companion piece to this pistol kit, which I will be working on in the near future. In addition to that, I have a couple other polearm heads. I have this more rustic peasant-type gizarm head, which I will be mounting on a shaft very similar to the one for this English bill. And second, I have this similarly rustic Volge or Volge Gizarm or something along those lines, a pole cleaver with a back spike that I will also be assembling. Now this one I'm going to need to create a custom shaft for it because the rear mounting socket here is a little bit bigger diameter than the regular commercially available stabs. So what I will probably end up doing is finding a hickory tree or equivalent tree in either my woods or my parents' woods, cutting down a sapling or a properly straight branch and removing the bark, drying it, otherwise finishing it up to make use of for this Volge. That's a project for later this year. I probably won't get to that until either the summer or maybe next fall. That's it for these projects today. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for my next videos.